In the shadows of a seemingly ordinary convenience store in Los Angeles, a pivotal moment unfolded on the night of August 31st, 1985. It marked the beginning of the end for a reign of terror that had paralyzed an entire state. Richard Ramirez, a name that had become synonymous with horror, stood on the precipice between a life of darkness and a desperate bid for escape. Join us in peeling back the layers of this haunting narrative, exploring the traumatic origins, the chilling crimes, and the relentless pursuit that brought an end to the Night Stalker's chilling legacy.
Why on earth would you have hurt those people? Why did you kill those people?
No comments. No comments. I cannot answer that at this time. I believe in the evil in human nature. This is a wicked world, and in a wicked world, wicked people are born.
Ramirez was born to a large family in El Paso, Texas. He was in his late teens when he landed in Southern California in the 1970s. Media reports indicated that he had a history of drug use, some arrests on relatively minor charges, and no evident purpose in life over his first few decades. But sometime in the mid-1980s, things turned drastically. It was then that horrific tales began to surface of a man breaking into homes, mostly in Southern California, in the wee hours of the morning. On several occasions, a man who happened to be inside was killed quickly. A female might be raped, sometimes more than once. Then the man who'd become known as the Night Stalker would ransack the home looking for valuables. There were gory exceptions to this scenario, like 30-year-old student Tsai Lian Yu, found lying bloody on the ground near her running car in Monterey Park, California, according to media reports. There was also the 41-year-old woman bound and raped, as her 12-year-old son was handcuffed and locked in a closet. While some victims were in their 60s and older, others were in their 20s and 30s. There were reports of pentagrams being scrawled at crime scenes, as well as snippets from heavy metal songs. To truly comprehend the genesis of Richard Ramirez's monstrous acts, one must delve into the depths of his traumatic childhood. Born on February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas, Ramirez's early life was marked by turbulence and violence. His father's temper was a constant source of terror, leading to physical abuse that left young Richard battered and bruised. The scars of this abuse would extend far beyond his physical body, leaving an indelible imprint on his psyche. In a bid to escape the horrors of his home, Ramirez sought solace in the company of his older cousin, Miguel. Unfortunately, this refuge would prove to be no safer than the environment he sought to escape. Miguel, a Vietnam veteran, had returned from the war with a darkness within him. His stories were not tales of heroism, but rather accounts of unspeakable atrocities. He showed Richard photographs as proof of his vile acts, photographs that would forever stain the young boy's innocence. Tragedy struck when Ramirez was just 13 years old. In a chilling turn of events, he witnessed Miguel murder his own wife. This traumatic event acted as a catalyst, triggering a transformation within Ramirez. The fear he had experienced was replaced with a simmering anger, a rage that would lay the foundation for the horrors he would later unleash upon the world. For a long time, Ramirez's first murder was believed to have taken place on June 28, 1984. It was then that he killed 79-year-old Jenny Vinco. Not only did Ramirez stab and sexually assault his victim, he also slashed her throat so deeply that she was nearly decapitated. But decades after Ramirez was arrested in 1985, he was also linked by DNA evidence to the murder of a 9-year-old girl, which took place on April 10, 1984, months before the Vinco murder. So that may well have been his first killing.
A DNA sample collected in 1984 at the crime scene, they were able to match it with his DNA.
After the Vinco murder, it would be several months before Richard Ramirez struck again. But when he did, he pursued his depraved impulses with horrific dedication. On March 17, 1985, Ramirez's murder spree began in earnest with an assault on Maria Hernandez in her home. Though Hernandez managed to escape, her roommate Dale Okazaki was not so lucky. That evening, Okazaki became another one of Ramirez's murder victims, but Ramirez still wasn't done. Later that same night, he shot and killed yet another victim named Tsai Lian Yu. A little over a week later, Ramirez murdered 64-year-old Vincent Zazara and his 44-year-old wife, Maxine. Sickeningly, it was then that Ramirez began to establish his signature attack style: shoot and kill the husband, then assault and stab the wife. But his murder of Maxine was especially ghastly, as he'd gouged out her eyes. For months, Ramirez would continue to stalk and murder more victims in California, striking fear in the hearts of people all throughout the state. What set Richard Ramirez, the infamous Night Stalker, apart from other serial killers was his terrifying unpredictability. Unlike those with discernible victim preferences, Ramirez showed no mercy, targeting both genders, all ages, and anyone unfortunate enough to cross his path. This indiscriminate malevolence cast a shadow of fear over the populace, as no one seemed exempt from his reign of terror. Initially concentrated around Los Angeles, Ramirez's sinister activities later extended to San Francisco, earning him the chilling moniker that still sends shivers down spines today, the Night Stalker. His crimes predominantly unfolded under the cover of darkness, enhancing the horror that enveloped his victims. Adding to the horror were Ramirez's grotesque displays of satanic symbols, etching pentagrams onto his victims' bodies and forcing them to pledge allegiance to Satan. This unsettling touch not only escalated the fear, but also highlighted the depths of his depravity. As night fell, California's residents lived in a state of constant dread, fearing the Night Stalker's intrusion into their lives, ready to subject them to his unspeakable acts. The pervasive fear led to a surge in gun sales, security measures, and personal safety precautions throughout the state. In response, the LAPD and FBI combined efforts to track down this faceless menace. Ramirez's eventual downfall was rooted in his own errors: a left footprint, a discarded car with a visible license plate. The police swiftly matched his fingerprints, bringing his reign of terror to a close. Richard Ramirez's capture was a result of a chain of missteps he committed in August 1985. Fleeing a crime scene, he left behind a footprint that acted as a breadcrumb for the pursuing authorities. Abandoning his car with its license plate exposed was yet another grave error. These mistakes, innocuous on their own, would culminate in his apprehension. The LAPD traced the abandoned vehicle back to Ramirez, matching a fingerprint in their extensive database. With information pouring in from tips, the decision was made to release Ramirez's image and name to the public, a pivotal moment that marked the turning point in his reign of terror. Unbeknownst to him, he was returning to Los Angeles, effectively walking into a trap set by his own image. The sight of his face splashed across newspapers marked the beginning of the end for Ramirez. Despite his desperate attempts to escape capture, a vigilant mob recognized him. As the crowd closed in, fueled by a visceral rage born of fear and anger, Ramirez's bid for freedom crumbled. The authorities arrived, taking him into custody, ending a manhunt that had gripped the nation. In 1989, Ramirez was convicted of 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He was sentenced to death in California's gas chamber. Ramirez, a self-professed Satan worshiper, spent 23 years on death row. At the time of his death, he became the 59th California inmate to die of natural causes while awaiting execution. As we wrap up our journey through the chilling tale of Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, we want to express our gratitude for joining us. If you found this exploration of true crime intriguing, remember to show your appreciation by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. Feel free to share your thoughts and comments below, and until next time, stay cautious and remain vigilant.